What's up, guys and gals? My name is Joy, and today we're going to be doing our Monster Hunter World review. I'm going to go into the positives and the negatives in this review. I'm actually going to probably just start with like a list of things that I like about the game, and then obviously the negatives, and then I'm going to go into the end game part of the review at the end, and we're going to talk about that in this review. I'm going to be very blunt. I'm warning everybody now. So if you're a fanboy of Monster Hunter and you love the franchise, you're probably not going to enjoy this review a whole lot on the negative aspect side, I would say. But there are some good things about the game that I do like, and I'm going to give credit where credit is due. So Monster Hunter World, or Monster Hunter in general, is a very old game. I did play the PS2 original Monster Hunter game, and I loved it. However, my friend got further, like my best friend from high school, introduced me to the game, and he actually got further in that game than I did. So, but it was fun watching him play it and seeing all the elements and the harder bosses as he progressed in the single player aspect of the game, because we didn't have the online capabilities. But he played the single player and he got really far, and I thought it was really cool, and I thought it was a cool concept. Keep in mind, this is before Dark Souls was a thing, okay? Monster Hunter's been around way before Dark Souls, so people that compare Monster Hunter to Dark Souls need to do a fact check or wipe their reviews or whatever, because what they don't understand is Dark Souls wasn't around when the first Monster Hunter game was. So technically, Dark Souls stole the idea of its combat systems from Monster Hunter. Okay? Just throwing that out there for those who don't understand that. If you want proof of that, the original Monster Hunter came out in 2004, I think, and the first Dark Souls game, Dark Souls 1, came out in 2009. So Monster Hunter technically holds the crown of that type of combat system and was the first to do so. Now let's get into Monster Hunter World. Let's quit going comparing those two games. Monster Hunter World, for the value you pay for, you get what you pay for. There's a lot of content here. Some of it's obviously stagnated and repetitive, like Destiny 2 or other MMO titles on either console or on your PC. A lot of the bosses are reused. You're going to be farming a lot for skins and all that crap. Um, and that's where the repetitive side of the game comes in. But if you like doing shit like that, you're gonna like the game. But obviously, the game itself, the title, Monster Hunter, your goal is to go around killing monsters, collecting their skin and their loot, and their manes and their fucking tails, and gathering resources to kill them. Now, let's go into what Capcom recently did, because we're gonna get, so those are the positives of the game. The story, I mean, I could go into the story, but every that's covered the story pretty much already said what I was gonna say about it. There is a story in the game. It reminds me of like Christopher Columbus meets Pocahontas, right? Like a new world. It's a new world. We're just discovering this giant landmass for the first time, and there's just happens to be like a Rathalos on it, even though the old world still had a Rathalos. It's kind of a Christopher Columbus story, is what it felt like to me. Anyways, so there's a story. There's a lot of content. Now we're gonna get into the negatives. Those are the good things, right? So I'm glad the game's back on the console. That's another positive I guess I could throw out there. And I do enjoy the combat of the game and whatever. Now we have some negatives, and trust me, I have a kind of a list of some negatives. So the number one issue I have, I did have an issue with the lock-on system at first, but I found out that you can actually change that. They don't mention that in a tutorial or a pop-up or anything, but you can change the lock-on system in the game. So if any reviewers complaining about the lock-on system, they haven't bothered to check the option functionality of that system to fix that, so that's also a positive. You can change the camera lock-on system to your preferred preference. Alright, so negatives. Um, Honestly, I have a few, or I have a couple, few, whatever you want to categorize it as. I don't give a shit. Um, one of my negatives is the fact that when you weaken a monster, you then have to chase it to a zone, then you have to chase it to another zone. You have to do all this traversing just to get to it. In the PS2 version of the game, way back in the day, the zones were filled with load screens, so it wasn't as open world. Now it's kind of a little bit more open. There's not as many load screens, which is fine, but it also is annoying because you have to run back and forth. This is where the camps come into play. Obviously, you can fast travel to the camps, and that makes the run distance shorter, but it's still dealing with load screens, and it gets tiresome after, I would say, the 50-hour mark. Once you've hit like 50 to 100 hours in the game, it starts to drain you, and that's where the game really starts to lose its potential luster. Like, I was really excited to play this. Now I'm just like, like it starts to lose its appeal. The other thing, recently Capcom, and I've heard from other Monster Hunter players in the handheld version that light and heavy bow guns were pretty OP in the handheld versions. So in Capcom's Infinite Wisdom recently, tonight actually, or this morning, they released a patch that nerfed slicing ammo, which is the new ammo type in Monster Hunter World. Now, I'm not a balance designer, and obviously I've given games like Destiny 2 shit, I've given Digital Extremes as of late shit for the balancing changes to Warframe. Whether they're good or bad, it doesn't matter. There are some good ones in Warframe, sure. Same with Destiny 2, I'm sure. And then there are bad ones that make no fucking sense and they need to be called the fuck out on them. And that's what I obviously have done recently. And it's no different with Capcom. Recently slicing ammo was nerfed for heavy bowguns and light bowguns. Here's the problem. They did nerf slicing ammo, right? But they did buff like all the other ammo types. Well, guess what? It doesn't really feel like it. It kind of does, but it kind of doesn't. And so, bowguns right now, in my opinion, are not worth using as of now, because slicing ammo is really their only go-to ammo. I mean, you have cluster bomb, and you have build sets around cluster bomb, but that means you have to farm for hours just to get a new build. Because if you build a slicing build, you don't get those resources refunded to you unless you roll back, the weapon all the way to the beginning. And that just pisses me off. Um, I think the changes, the buffs to the other ammo types are a step in the right direction, but they didn't seem like they were buffed enough to make a real impact in heavy bowgun usage. Minus again like cluster bomb and these other spread or whatever. But why would I use a bowgun to get close with spread when I'm using a bowgun in the first place to play a ranged character? Does that make sense? Like, so the shotgun spread ammo obviously is what it is. It's shotgun spread ammo. It's there to be a shotgun. Cluster bomb is more of a ranged ability, but it can work at close ranges too, I guess. But that's the thing, right? Like, heavy bowguns, light bowguns right now, their only purpose, and up until the recent nerf, was slicing ammo, and it still feels like that was their purpose to begin with, because all the other ammo types, minus maybe again cluster and now as of late spread, do any fucking damage. And I'm not gonna lie when I say this, while spread and cluster are good, you're limited to a max of, I think you get 3 rounds of cluster bomb in your inventory, and spread you have to get close with. I might as well just get a melee weapon at that point. And that's the issue I have currently with Monster Hunter World. Now, I played the PS2 version of the game way back in the day, but I fondly remember this because, I remember all the good games from the PS2 days because there were quite a few of them and they were all really good. No DLC, no season pass, full games for for one base price. Those were the days of gaming. But Monster Hunter, the original on the PS2, it had some imbalances, with boss fights and whatever. Sure. But at least the weapons did damage. All of them, right? So all the bowguns did damage. All the melee weapons did damage. The long sword, the heavy sword, or the heavy blade. They all did damage. In this game, I feel like there's only a few weapons in this game that are worth using, and the rest are fuck off or die, right? Because you're not going to want to use them. And especially with bowguns now, with the slice nerf, it's the same thing. Why would I use spread ammo or cluster bomb when I can just get fucking close to an enemy with a melee weapon? If I really wanted to get close, and I've seen people on GameFAQs. I saw one Chinese player or Japanese player post a video of him using cluster bomb on Nergante with with Rocksteady, and he just crafted more cluster bomb. And you know, that's your preference. That's fine. You can do that. But I don't want to sit in the menu crafting cluster bomb ammo because I'm limited to fucking 3 to kill a fucking Elder Dragon. That's just stupid. It's the same as slicing. Um, I think all ammo types under all the bowgun categories need to be buffed. I also have another complaint regarding bowguns, not just ammos in general and slicing and the nerf that pertains to slicing. The other complaint I have is for heavy bowgun users in general, there's not a lot of good options in terms of a heavy bowgun. Again, this is something the PS2 version, the last Monster Hunter I played, because I'm not going to buy a fucking DS and PSP. But the last Monster Hunter I played on PS2, like I said, the bowgun felt good. It felt like there were a bunch of different variants, and they all were equally, if not decent, at their job. Again, heavy bowgun users are like, I think the heavy bowgun I'm using right now is called the Kodachi Lion, which, you know, it's pretty good, but if you look at the tier 8 heavy bowguns, most of them are shit, right? Because you're not going to want one with the machine gun ammo unless that got buffed, and I don't know about it. I hope it did, because it's fucking weak. It does like 1 damage. It's so shit. So you're going to pick a heavy bowgun with Wyvern Snipe. That's usually what you're going to pick, right? Well, that would be the case if, and I say this loosely, if the game didn't force you to, again, use slicing. Even after the nerf, it still seems like slicing is still the best way to go, even though the damage is reduced. Normal ammo's fine if you get headshots. I'm noticing on most enemies with it. But it's not. That's not just, like I said, it's not just the ammo. There's not a tier 8 heavy bowgun, in my opinion, that feels good. It doesn't feel good to use. You look at the ammo types for it, and they're all shit. Some of them have like cluster bomb level, you know, tier 1, and it has like 4 rounds of that. That's fine and everything, but why would I take cluster bomb tier 1 when tier 3 does better damage? You see what I'm saying? So certain heavy bowguns do have better ammo types or variants for them, and that's where, like, I feel that a purple heavy bowgun, like my Kodachi Lion for example, is better than most of the tier 8 ones. And this one's like a tier fucking, is it a tier 6 or tier, I think it's a tier 7. So my heavy bowgun's a tier 7, and it outdoes most of the tier 8s that are supposed to be the better variants, because the ammo types on them are all shit. All the ammo, like, I think the Nergante heavy bowgun, it's got dragon, you know, element to it, which is really good. But it doesn't have Wyvern Snipe, and it's got, like, normal ammo 3 as its best ammo type. Like, what? So, that's where my issues with heavy bowgun comes in. There's not a lot of good ammo types for heavy bowgun. Now, regular bow, you know, that's a different story. I just, look, man, I've played Shadow of War. If I want to be an archer, I'll go play the Shadow of War or Assassin's Creed Origins. I don't want to use a regular bow. I'm sorry. I like play Monster Hunter for either the long sword, like the katana blade, or the heavy blade, you know, the Monster Hunter sword icon itself, or I play it for heavy bowguns. And the heavy bowguns in Monster Hunter World are severely lacking in punch, in my opinion. That's just me. With or without the nerf, even before the nerf, they still felt pretty weak. They were doing okay, but they needed kind of a buff, not a nerf. I think slicing could have been nerfed if you had buffed every other ammo type like times 10, because right now they don't compete with regular bows and or hell, my longsword build does more damage. It's pathetic. Um, and so I'm not really happy with the weapon choices in Monster Hunter World. And I think that's the biggest thing that's going to hurt the game in the long term unless they fix it quickly. Um, what else? Guild card system, it's okay. I honestly, the only reason people are doing that, it's annoying as fuck, I agree. But the only reason people are doing it is for a trophy, and that's it. So you send your guild card to somebody, and you have to accept it mid-fight, and it's just like this notification. It's really annoying to deal with, but I see why it's there, but it's, again, it's another thing in your face that doesn't need to be there. Um, Downing health potions and everything is slow, but that's Monster Hunter combat for you. That's not really a complaint. Uh, I think that's pretty much it. There's just not a lot of weapon variety in terms of like things you want to use because most of them don't feel very good. Some of the weapons, like I said, do better than others. Charge Blade, Longsword, those are probably the two melee weapons you want to be using in Monster Hunter World. Should you use a bow, or a light bow gun, or a heavy bow gun? Out of those three, I would say the bow. So the bow, the longsword, and the heavy blade, and maybe the charge blade. Those are like the four main weapons you should be using. And I just listed one of those as a ranged weapon. Only one. So the other two ranged weapons that used to be good, don't bother. That's my take on it. I'm still trying to do a heavy bowgun build, but it's just, I don't know, man. It's just not. It doesn't feel as good as the PS2 variant, and that's the biggest issue. Like I said, with the game that I have, and that almost makes me want to go out and just buy a PS2 and play the old school game because it was better uh, in a lot of areas. Tracking's fine. However, when you get to HR 50 plus, if you want to do tempered elder dragons for endgame, you have to go to an expedition and track them, which can be really annoying because you can only track them like with one track, and then you have to leave the expedition, go back and do it again. It's just repetitive as fuck, and it's not fun. Um, and then obviously the end game itself is basically gem farming. You're farming gems, these rare streamstone gems that drop off elder dragons. You're farming those, and those upgrade your gear and your weapons to do more damage, which on paper sounds nice, but again, for a heavy bowgun user currently in the game, you're gonna be farming, I would say, probably another 100 hours as a heavy bowgun user or a light bowgun user to actually get any fucking damage out of your fucking gun, because the way it's looking right now, I don't see heavy bowguns being top of the pack when I could use a fucking charge blade or longsword or a heavy blade. There's no reason to. Um, I also have pretty much almost all the exotics in the game, or sorry, tier eights. I won't call them exotics. I'll call them my bad. Tier 8s in the game to the point where burnout and boredom is starting to hit as well. I think that's another issue. There's not enough, like I said, compared to the original Monster Hunter game, where weapons felt decent to where you wouldn't get bored of them. Like, if I picked a longsword in the original Monster Hunter on PS2, I knew that I could kill something with that. Sometimes I'd have to upgrade it, yes, to kill another monster, but it felt like I was doing something. Same with heavy bowgun. In this game, I feel like I'm not doing any damage. Now, I don't know if that's, like I said, my longsword build's actually really fucking good because I'm running a Nergante build, um, and I have a decent amount of affinity. But like, in terms of the heavy and light bowgun, there's no reason to use them. Just use a regular bow. And like I said, if I want to play an archer, I've got Assassin's Creed Origins, and hell, you can be an archer in Warframe. I've got Shadow of War as well to do that. I don't need to be an archer in this game. I want to be a heavy bowgun user like old school Monster Hunter when it was fun to be one, and it doesn't feel very fun to be a heavy bowgun user at the moment. It's just not in a good spot, and it could be better. Um, like I said, I don't care if you had to nerf slicing, but like make the heavy bowgun tier 8 weapons have more ammo choices, maybe, and then also buff a lot of the other ammo types even further than what you currently did, because you didn't buff them. You didn't buff like normal ammo. Who the fuck is gonna use that? I'm sorry to say that. I'm not gonna use normal ammo. I think it's a waste. If anything, normal ammo is good for, it's probably the tier 1 variants, just so you can build up your fucking wyvern snipe, and that's it. That's all you're gonna use it for. Spread ammo's good, but again, you have to get close to make it really effective, and at that point, I'll just go put on a melee weapon. They need to change the heavy bowgun setup and loadouts to make them really worth using in the game, because right now it's Monster Hunter Blade World, Like if you're not using a melee weapon, then don't play the game. That's what it feels like. So I'm very disappointed in the game in its current state right now with those changes, or not with those changes, but like its current state in terms of like range is only good if you use a bow, and then the rest is melee or die, right? Um, and I think that that needs to be changed. What else? Server issues. Oh my god. Let's talk about that. So multiplayer, queuing for multiplayer lobbies. On some days it works fine, and on other days I disconnect. Like, look, I have some issues on Warframe when I play online. Not a lot, but like sometimes servers go down or a hotfix comes in and you get DC. Okay, it happens. Or PSN goes down. But let me put it this way: I can play Warframe for many hours without a DC. Monster Hunter World, the servers like drop people from your group, and then you're stuck with multiplayer difficulty, which isn't all that bad because I can still pretty much solo a multiplayer Elder Dragon. It's just bad when you want to play online with people, like because I want to play Monster Hunter with other people. I want to queue up in SOS and have them join and do a quest with 3 other dudes or girls or whatever and have a good time. But the servers, man, I don't know what Capcom's running, if they're running a toaster or a fucking box, but sometimes the servers on this game are terrible. They're fucking atrocious. Like, you'll connect perfectly fine, and the moment you get in the mission and you connect to somebody, it drops them out of the group and says, "Error, network has been dropped. We're putting you in the single player mode." The fuck, man? It was working fine when we connected. So that's another issue. What else? After the story, it's HR farm grind, I would call it. I mean, you're basically farming your HR rank, kind of like your GTA rank. There's not much to do after the main storyline. You're just farming tempered monsters for gems, and that's it. And you're grinding your HR to 100, where you'll get the last quest. I already know the spoilers to it. It's not that impactful, to be honest, and I didn't find it worth it. But you can actually go past HR 100. Now, I don't know if there's other quests past that. No one has confirmed that yet. But apparently HR goes to 999 rank. So why you would go to that rank after 100, I have no fucking clue. You don't get anything new as far as I know for getting there, and there's really no point to go there after 100, in my opinion, because 100 is the last quest. So unless you get like a godlike weapon at the end of that, like I don't know, a heavy bowgun that actually does damage at the end of that, I don't see the points in going that far in the grind. So Monster Hunter World, it's a good game, but like all good games, it comes with its fair share of problems. And so my review score for the game, with the complaints I've listed in the end game, the good things that I like about the game, and just overall my frustrations so far and currently, I give the game a. I don't want to give it too low a score because I think it deserves a little bit more because we haven't had a Monster Hunter in a long time on the console. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. That's a little higher than I want to give it, and I don't want to give it anything lower. But I think a 7 out of 10 is kind of in the right spot. If I were to lower it a little bit, I'd say it's about a 6 out of 10. There's a lot of issues with Monster Hunter World that a lot of reviewers aren't talking about. The servers, the lack of weapons that feel like they do anything other than being paperweights, and oh, I forgot to mention Insect Blade's also a good one, but that's another fucking blade. Like, seriously. Where's the heavy? I barely see heavy bowgun users, and the ones I do see, they, as of now, they're not doing any damage. Even with the other ammo buffs, it feels like shit. It doesn't play well, and it feels like I'm shooting paper bullets at that bad guy because it's not working. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't mind the slicing nerf, but they need to fix that. They need to fix something with heavy bowguns, or make the tier T8s have different ammo variants, so I could use a different weapon that's like, cause like I said, I'm using a purple heavy bowgun right now because it's better than most of the tier 8 ones. So they really need to rebalance that and maybe buff all those ammo types again that they already buffed, but buff them by like ×5 instead of by like 1%, because right now it's all crap. With that said, mine has been Joy. That's my review. That's my score. 7 out of 10 is my final score for the game. I do enjoy the game. I would recommend getting it on sale if you're interested. You won't be disappointed, and there's a lot of content here. Absolutely, all the DLC. There's no season pass. All the DLC will be free. All the add-on content will be free. All of it's free, which is good. No season pass. No loot boxes. No bullshit. All of it's free. The problem is, though, again, the balancing of the weapons right now is in a dire state of collapse, and that's, I think, again, categorized as the biggest complaint with the game. On top of server issues and the lack of a decent end game, all cultivate together to really bring the experience down. And on top of that, the repetition of chasing down a monster like you're in the fucking Savannah Desert, or not the Savannah Desert, sorry, the Oasis of Egypt. So those are the things that bring it down for me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this review. Like I said, guys, I'm very blunt when it comes to pretty much any game. I'm not gonna sit here and praise one game when I know it's got issues and they need to be addressed. And that's for every game. I'm not a fanboy. I tell it like it is. Keep it 100 on this channel, which is a shame because I really enjoyed PS2 Monster Hunter a lot, but I can tell you right now that game was more fun than Monster Hunter World, at least to me, and that's because the weapons felt great, the monsters felt great, everything coincided, at least to me, on a really good level. Some people didn't like the PS2 version of the game, and that's completely fine, but I did. So that's my take on it. World's still a pretty good game, but it's not a perfect 10 out of 10 like all these other reviewers are giving it. So, with that said, though, again, my name's been Joy. Have a good one, guys. I will catch you. I might stream some Monster Hunter this weekend. Maybe. Trying to get to HR 100. I'm currently almost 70 at the moment, but I'm burning out pretty quickly, so not a lot to do. I'm actually waiting on Dynasty Warriors 9, which comes out the 13th, so I'll be streaming that as well, and we'll be playing that. But that's pretty much it. That's all I got to say for now. I'll see you guys, I guess, the 13th when I do that, or maybe when I stream some Monster Hunter, I'll put a quick video out saying I'm streaming or something. I don't know. But that's the review. 7 out of 10. It's a good game, but I still recommend getting it on sale if you're interested. With that said, guys, take care. Have a good one.